with the celebration of this third Sunday of Lent, we enter the final week of the first phase of the Lenten season. The first phase, which goes from Ash Wednesday until Laetare Sunday, next Sunday, focuses on God's commandments and Christ's teaching, and encourages us to examine ourselves in light of those words of God. And so today in the first reading, what do we have? What have we been given? Well, for those of us who came on time for Mass and heard the first reading, and many of you did not, for those who were here, we heard the 10 Commandments given. The 10 Commandments of the Old Law. And there are still too many Catholics today, if you ask them, what must you do to please the Lord? They'll tell you, keep the commandments. Well, you know what? That ain't good enough. Keeping the 10 Commandments makes you a good Jew. Doesn't necessarily make you a good Christian. And so the commandments are given to us as the foundation, as the basis. Jesus came to fulfill those commandments, to bring them to perfection, to complete them. And he does this by bringing out the inner meaning of the commandments. And this is best set forth in the magnificent 5th chapter of John's Gospel. Here we have some more people coming in late. Unbelievable. No, it's nothing to smile about. I wasn't even going to get to that part until we get into the Gospel. Respect for God's house. That's when you're really going to get it. But anyway, in the first reading, we have the commandments given to us. The foundation of the law that Jesus was given to give to us, which is the law of the love of God, which brings out the inner meaning of those commandments. And in the 5th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, Jesus goes on and he says, "You have heard the commandment, you shall not kill. What I say to you," it's a very shocking way of saying things, because the commandment, "you shall not kill," was given by God himself. And what Jesus is saying, well, you heard God tell you, you shall not kill. What I tell you is, see, now you and I accept that because we know that Jesus Christ is truly the Son of God. But to the Jewish people, that was a shocking way of speaking. Jesus was claiming an authority that he had by virtue of who he was. And then we move on to the gospel. Brace yourself. This is where it's really coming. Because too often we think of Jesus as very sweet and gentle and never getting upset and never saying anything to make anybody feel bad. Well, that's not really the Jesus portrayed in the scriptures, is it? And we have this one instance where his anger comes out. And you know what elicits his anger? The abuse of God's house. The temple was a scene of sacrifices. There were all kinds of sacrifices that were done each and every day at the temple. The big sacrifices would be sheep and oxen. The smaller sacrifices would be birds or smaller animals. Well, these things were sold in the temple area for people's convenience. You'd come to the temple, you wanted to sacrifice a sheep, you'd go over to the sheep stalls and buy your sheep. But there was another wrinkle that came in where you could not use Roman coins. Why? Because they bore the graven image of Caesar. And that was forbidden in God's house. So you had to have special money made specifically for use in the temple. And so you had the money changers. Well, of course, being good businessmen, they always wanted to make a little extra on the side, so they'd have all sorts of bargains and sales. You can get 2 turtle doves for the price of 1 today, and you can do this, and you can do that, you can do the other thing. And so our Lord comes in and he says, what is this nonsense? You're turning my Father's house into a marketplace and into a den of thieves. And so his anger overflows, and he makes a whip and starts driving them all out, overturning the tables, and the money goes flying all over the place. What was he trying to show? Respect, reverence, a deep devotion to the things of God. Now, how does this apply to us? And here it comes. Batten down the hatches. Fully 1/4 of the people who are in this church this morning came in after I got up to the altar. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. The Mass doesn't start at 11:15. It starts at 11 o'clock. Now, on any given day, especially if there are elderly people or people with small children, I can understand somebody being late. But when the same people, week after week after week after week, come sashaying into the church, never bothering to genuflect, the Blessed Sacrament is in this church. The presence of Christ, the Son of God, is in this church. And some of you just sashay into the pew, sit down, plop down, okay, entertain me, I'm here. God, you're lucky that I made it today. No. That's not how we show respect for God's house. The one thing that should characterize us whenever we come to Mass is a deep sense of reverence. You know, one of my favorite conversations with young Catholics is with teenagers. Oh, do I have to go to Mass? It's so boring. I'm just so bored. Oh, do you expect me to say the Our Father? Oh, not again. Well, maybe the Mass is boring because you're boring. You come in here sitting like a sack of potatoes expecting to be entertained. That's not what Mass is all about. That's not what God's house is for, to entertain you. You have come to give worship to God. And you better have that in the forefront of your little mind when you step foot into this church. That you are here to show your reverence and your thanksgiving and your love and your faith in the God who has saved you, in the God who has healed you, in the God who has sustained you, in the God who has nourished you inwardly. So, we have the anger of Jesus in today's gospel. We have the anger of Father O'Keefe in today's homily. Take it to heart. Take it to heart. Because the one criticism I have of Christ the King parish, and the one criticism I have of most Catholic churches, is the way people sashay in late, and oh Lord, don't you want to leave early? And it'll be the same people who came in late who'll be prancing out the door as soon as we start giving communion. No, that's not right. It's not right, and you need to realize that. And I don't care how many years you've been carrying on like this. It's a bunch of nonsense. Realize who you are, where you are, and who you are here to worship. It ain't about you. It's about God. That's why we're here. And so I say to you in all equanimity, got it? Good.